Welcome to the EvoGen podcast. This is Eddie, and I'm here with Maisie and Colby. Without further ado, let's dive right into it.
Yeah, well, first item of business for today, we just had our EvoGen launch party on Saturday. Last episode, we were kind of anticipating, hopefully it goes good. It went great, by the way. If you missed out, you missed out. Sorry. We've got our founding members joining the community, which is really cool. There is a lot more people that showed up than I honestly anticipated. I feel like the room was pretty packed. So lots of energy, lots of good vibes. Stay tuned. Our next event is going to be April 17th. We just put it in the books and we'll be announcing what it is shortly. But yeah, all I have today is we're talking about the mindset shift that separates entrepreneurs from employees. So
Yeah, with that, there's one big difference between the two. And for me, how I see it is that entrepreneurs like the risk and employees like a little more comfortability.
you gotta stay safe.
They like to stay safe. They like to stay comfortable. Entrepreneurs, they're more looking at, is this worth it, than what is the cost behind my risk?
Yeah. Or
So,
what's my ROI?
Yeah.
What's my reward for this?
Yeah, the main thing that Robert Kiyosaki notes in his book is that, in his book Rich Dad Poor Dad, is that
Good book.
it's such a good book, and he notes that people are usually tending they lean towards a job if they want security, but then what I love is that he actually talks about how that's probably the least secure option.
Yeah.
Because you could be fired at any moment and your skill set can only get you so far, whereas as an entrepreneur you're always developing a different skill set. So
yeah, I think that ties back to one of the very first episodes we did when we talked about Elon Musk, just throwing him out on the street, okay, he's gonna find his resources and he's gonna make his own business again.
Yes.
Whereas you've been in this career for 30, 40 years, you get laid off. What do you do now?
Exactly.
You just got to go back to the bottom.
Yeah. And you can only learn so much with being an employee than it is to be an entrepreneur or even an investor, just because you're learning sales, you're learning how to deal with problems, you're learning how to deal with people every single day. So you're learning multiple things in one take as being an entrepreneur.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. And even when you are specializing, or when you are an employee, you're specializing in one thing for so long, while as entrepreneurs I feel like we're kind of jacks of all trades. We're just picking up a new skill and adapting it, and even if it's something that doesn't on the front end relate to what we're doing, we find a way to make it relate to our businesses and what we're doing. So
makes sense.
Very
Makes
true.
sense.
yeah. What I have here is thinking like an owner versus waiting for direction. So kind of building off of what we just talked about.
Colby, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Again, Robert Kiyosaki makes a very clear distinction between 4 different quadrants. And you have the employee, you have the self-employed, and then you have the business owner, and then you have the investor.
Yeah.
And the main difference is between the self-employed and the business owner is, here's the thing, you can be an entrepreneur, but you can still have the same risk level as an employee.
You can still be the employee.
Exactly. You could still have the same issues as an employee does. If you build the business around you, you won't be able to sell it because it relies on you.
Yeah.
And you're going to be constantly working and grinding, and your income is based on your work, not on others. So it's not just entrepreneur versus an employee of a company. It's entrepreneur versus structure, I guess, how they structure something. Because that was the same thing with us for a while. We've been structured for so long, and our CPA firm was running around Merrill. And for a while, it's been we've been working on getting him out of that. And now that he's detached from that, now we're able to scale and grow.
Yeah.
But we were stuck. And if we lost him, we lost everything.
The business, for sure.
You essentially become the bottleneck of your business.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, because I know of someone who's in that situation right now. And this person has so many clients going on, but he's relying so much just on taking the phone calls, doing the paperwork. And it is he has that cuff still kind of like what an employee would have. So yeah, I mean, being self-employed, being that entrepreneur can still be tough, and you'll still play that hustling game, but just in a different way, in a different font. So.
Yeah, for sure. That's something that, like, with my business model, we talk about a lot is the cash flow quadrant, because, like, there's so many automations and systems that we're taking ourselves out of that self-employed state and becoming the CEOs that just like sit back, relax, and watch everything happen for them.
Absolutely.
So you gotta find a way to delegate, for one, if you are in that spot. And I feel like entrepreneurs are really good at figuring out how to get things off their plates rather than just thinking, okay, I'm going to do it all. You know?
Right. And it all starts with a problem, right? And then it'll soon become a solution. Of course, if you keep going at it and you keep, I guess you could say, studying your own operations. Because there's some people that, they're just self-employed and they're doing their own things, but they don't even know what they're doing, right? They're just still working to work, and they don't even know what's the P&L, the profit and loss behind their business. They don't even know how their operation is really structured. They just go with the flow. And sometimes that just takes you nowhere sometimes.
Well, yeah, and you can't delegate that way either, because it's like, what do you assign someone else if you don't really know what you're doing yourself?
Exactly.
And I was like being in acquisition HQ and being around a lot of not only like angel investors and those individuals, but a lot of PE firms, and talking with them. And when they're going into a company, their number one thing is most of the time the founder cannot be the CEO. Right. Like, period. Yeah. Founders make terrible CEOs because they don't know.
Remember that meeting that we went to a little while ago?
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably the number one thing that they do is they first have to remove the founder as CEO, because they don't know how to properly run the company like a company. They just know what their passion is, and they just had the brilliant creative ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some people out there that have that trait, right? There's many characteristics. Like for me, I could be a visionary, right? And Colby can be very operational, systematic. And sometimes that comes into hand in hand. I feel
like sometimes it's like flipped.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, anyway, sorry, keep going.
Well, why you say that? That's an interesting...
I just feel like you're very like operational and analytical, and then Colby's like a lot like dream big and like has all these like you have big goals and dreams too, but I feel like Colby like really like
sells that idea.
Yeah.
My AI is my operations guy.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong being that way. It's just you have to know yourself, and then, like you said, start delegating people to I guess cover your weaknesses.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Cover your weaknesses. So, I like that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes into what Benjamin Hardy calls who, not how. The last thing you should be figuring out is how to do everything. You need to find the who that can do that thing.
Yeah, and it'll just jumpstart your destination of where you want to be. Of course, it's not all about the destination; it's about the journey, right? Absolutely. But it'll definitely, be a lot more efficiently running as a business than it is just doing it all by yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't have to start out that way, but eventually, if you want to scale, like you need to get to a point where you like check in with yourself and be like, okay, it's time to start delegating these off if I want to grow as an individual and as a business.
Right.
So.
Right.
Because I feel like when I first started everything, like I was doing it like all alone. Now I got my AI employees, so we're chilling. But like before, I thought that was the only way to build a business. I feel like there might be a lot of people listening that were in the same boat as I was, because I thought you just had to do everything yourself. I had a very traditional mindset, and I feel like I have kind of a different background than the both of you, because I went to college, I went down the traditional path and was working like this nice high paying job, and I was like, okay, cool, but I'm trapped here for the rest of my life. If I want to leave, like I can't. Like if I want to go do something else, like I actually can't, because I don't have the funds to do that. And so I feel like I've had to rewire a lot of that.
Right.
So hopefully anybody listening can take away from that and be like, you don't have to start just like delegating and hiring people and doing things like that, but you want to make sure that you realize that you can't stay that way forever.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing too that I would want to go back to, just with the difference between employee and then entrepreneur, is that entrepreneurs are always hungry for multiple streams of income.
Yes.
And that's the difference, because when there's a high paying employee, they're comfortable with that and they'll save and maybe invest in one source of income, other than their job. But other than that, it's like, that's all they know. And that's
Yeah.
okay, right? I mean, if they feel like that's something that they're comfortable with, to each their own, right? But entrepreneurs always have that grind, that grit to just go, and if I could get 7 different products to make me money, I'll take that any day than 2 products making me,
Yeah.
pretty solid money.
Well, I was even thinking about that this morning because I have a retirement account that I started when I was 18 from my job, and there's like almost 30K in there, which that's a lot compared to what most people have in their retirement accounts. But also that's like a quarter of what I would make full time in a year. So like
Sure.
when I get to 50, and I've been there 4 years, so it's like when I'm 50 years old and want to retire, like that's not going to last me a year.
Yeah,
That's going to last me that's going to be half a year, a quarter of a year. So I've got to figure out these other ways so I don't stay trapped there forever.
for sure.
Absolutely.
And I also want to throw in there, like, I do love what I do. It's just like, and I feel like some people might be conflicted with that as well, like with their employee mindset, like loving their job and loving the opportunities that they get there. But I've also realized I can't stay there forever. I can't retire like this, or at least I could, but like I can't live the life that I would want to live.
Yeah,
Live like relying on this stream of income, this one singular stream of income.
right. Makes sense. No, and I've heard, just with like work in general and just wanting the life that you want, a lot of people, they exit, multi-million-dollar companies, and sometimes they still pursue other work.
Most of the time.
Most of the time they pursue other work. So because of that, don't think that the end goal is just to sip drinks on the beach, right? I mean,
Well, it gets boring after a while.
exactly. It gets,
Yeah, talking to most of those who've exited that way, it lasts for maybe a month max, and then they're like, "What am I doing with my life?" And I mean, I'm very fortunate to be in the place because there's a very great potential that we have an opportunity to do really, really well, and maybe I do have the ability to retire early, right? Like super early.
Yeah.
And I'm not thinking about sipping drinks on the beach.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, here's my list of things I want to do. Like, what's priority number 1? What's priority number 2? Like, how can I accomplish all these in my lifespan?
Sure.
Exactly. Well, retirement for me, like I always say, like I want to retire when I'm 25, but I'm not actually going to retire because I'm not just going to sit and do nothing
Yeah.
for the next 40, 50 years. I'm just going to work because I'm choosing to work, or work on things that I'm more passionate about, instead of waiting for like a set amount of time to just do nothing.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I mean, that's not, yeah, exactly. Like, we're not really retiring. We're just financially set. Like,
Financially free.
exactly, we're financially free.
We have
Truly
the
financially
option.
free.
Yeah, we have the
Have the
option to
option.
exit if we want to.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's the goal.
Which, yeah, I like that. I was listening to a podcast on the way up. It's called The Diamond Life Mentor, and I can't remember exactly the wording he said. This was like his 4th episode, like that I was listening to from like 3 years ago. But he said something along the lines of like, I'm building this business so that I can be intentional, and my dream life is like being intentional, and I'd rather like be the person. What did he say? He was talking about like untraditional things. Like I'd rather take this untraditional path and take. Oh my gosh, okay, I'm butchering this because I can't remember exactly the way he put it, but it really resonated with me. Like, which is funny because like I can't recall actually what he said. He said something about like, I'd rather be the person who takes challenges because I can. No, that's not the right part. But the other part was like, I'd rather not stay stuck doing things that I hate. Oh, it was, I want to do things that I like because I want to, and not stay stuck doing things that I hate because I have to.
Yeah.
Like basically
Exactly.
that freedom. Sorry, that took a long time for me to like remember exactly how he said it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the goal. I mean, if we're wanting to do something with our lives, and sometimes we want to do something and then we do that something and it's like, oh, it's not really what I wanted to do. But you have the option, like I said, to exit, right?
Mhm.
From that. It's kind of the same thing with and I'm very fortunate because I went to college for basketball, and I thought basketball
I
was going to be
forgot
it.
about that.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I thought basketball was going to be it. Like that's what I wanted to do. That was the end goal, and I was finally reaching the collegiate level. I was like, wow, like this is really it. But once I started getting into that, I was like, oh, do I really want to do this? So thankfully, I had the option to go back, right? And I did. And if I told myself that like 4 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it. But it was the best decision that I made personally for me. So to each their own, they vary. So that's kind of my
Yeah.
thoughts on it.
Yeah. Next thing I have on here is like how risk, responsibility, and reward align with freedom.
Well, we're young, so we can take a lot of risks.
Yeah.
Right? That's the whole point of the community, is to kind of emphasize on that. Of course, the situation is different, but I think that all correlates because obviously there's a saying, higher risk, higher reward. So yeah, I think it's a little bit hard for me to compose. I'll give it time though. I'll pass it on to Colby on this one while I'm thinking, and we'll sort of.
Okay, Colby, take the mic.
What were the 3 words?
Risk, responsibility, and reward.
It's different for every person, right? Like what's each of our rewards, right, that we're seeking for? Ultimately, kind of the same thing, right? Freedom of time, freedom of money, but to do what, right?
Completely different.
What's the why behind that? Exactly, completely different things. Like for me, the reward is to be able to create a platform in which to help people battle pornography, and then to help the nation island of Vanuatu, right? Island nation of Vanuatu. And then Maisie, you have different goals and different desires and achievements, and so does Eddie. Some of us are still figuring out what that is.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, like, that's the thing though. Like, that's what's huge about it, because we're not risking. We're risking our own, like, this time right now, our money right now, for something bigger than ourselves. And I think that's why it always pays off, is because battling pornography and helping others through that is ultimately way bigger than me. And it's going to take a lot more people than me to ever make some kind of even a dent or impact into that. Right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing for each of us. So it's finding something bigger that's worth risking everything for. Because if you have that why, is it worth the risk is always going to be yes.
Yeah.
And creating that freedom to be able to then actually make that impact.
Yes.
The way I'm perceiving this is a little bit different. I mean, very still similar. Like that's why I'm creating freedom, is so I can go ahead and live these bigger purposes and passions and things like that. But also, it really stuck out to me. Owen's sister was telling me the story about their grandpa, who actually he was a police officer for a long time, and then he was waiting for retirement. He had this list of hikes that he wanted to take, and then he got sick after retirement. He was waiting until retirement to take his grandkids on these hikes, and then he got sick and he could not, and then he ended up passing away, unfortunately, and never got to go on these hikes. And that just made me so sad, because for me, obviously I don't want to end up waiting so long to do all these different things, and then getting to an age where my health declines or something completely out of my control happens and I don't get to do them.
Sure.
And so that's where I really align with freedom, and how I feel like I don't feel like I necessarily perceive it as risk when I take on a new opportunity or anything like that. I think that's just because we're all so young, and it's just hey, let's try it, let's go with it and see what happens. I don't really perceive it as a risk per se. If it's financially, I can always make my money back. Time, okay, I can't make my time back, but I do have a lot of time to spend.
As of right now,
exactly. As of right now, I have a lot of time. And responsibility, I mean, just really taking on all of these, I guess, risk and responsibility kind of align with each other in that way when it comes to freedom, because it's I'm taking these all onto my shoulders so that I can, again, I guess now I am going back to what Colby said, live that bigger purpose and get all the things that I want to do done, so I don't end up as a normal person retiring and then life happens. So
Yeah.
Right. And one thing that I would want to kind of like point out too is the responsibility point of things. So I mean, every single one of us have different situations, and this is kind of like how I was trying to compose word wise just about that last part, which is responsibility. Responsibility to me, like I'm fortunate to be in the position that I am because it gives me a lot more time. For
Mhm.
each and every single one of us, it's different, right? So the way that my success will look like, my journey will be a lot, it could be perceived a lot easier for a lot of people who are going through harder things in life, right? When money is tight or they just don't have enough time and they're working like two different jobs,
yeah,
right? But there's always a way to create some form of opportunity. And the responsibility behind all of that is to find and seek for those opportunities.
find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
I feel like entrepreneurs, going back to like versus an employee, they always find a way out of no way. And I feel like I was doing that a lot last year because I went part time at my job, and just things were really tough. We had invested in a couple of different things, and I still have like my $3,000 mortgage every month, and like we still have to keep up with our bills and stuff like that. But like we needed the money, we found a way to get the money, no matter what it took.
Right.
And I feel like employees or like people with like a traditional mindset, they're like, okay, well that's it. Like they
So there's it's a quote by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I can't, like, it's a long, long quote. But anyways, it talks about hope being the will and the way. And it's basically talking about how hope defies any odds. Like, it doesn't consider the odds. When you have hope, there's pathways thinking. And so no matter what, you're going to find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And that's what I absolutely love. And that's what it brings me back to, because, I mean, how are you supposed to accomplish anything bigger than yourself? How are you supposed to take on so much responsibility and so much risk? And it's like, you just have to hope for the best, right?
exactly. You have to hang on to that and use it as your willpower and attach it to your motivation that then turns into discipline. So
Yeah, absolutely. And there will be times where you jump into something and you won't see any results in 3 years, maybe 5 years, maybe even in a year. But till then, you have to know that it'll work.
Yes.
you just have to know like the uncomfortability of it is temporary. Like the hard part is temporary.
And then once it happens, like I've felt that before. Once it happens, you're like, wow, like this feels good. Like pat myself in the back for
Seriously.
once, right?
I've literally like been in that state the past couple months. I'm just like, wow, this is what it's like.
Yeah,
Welcome to the club, Maisie.
exactly.
Nice.
So
But yeah, the next part I have, I don't know if you guys can speak a ton of, you probably can. I don't think you can. Or well, you can, but like okay, anyways, it's steps to transition from worker to builder. So I guess from like a traditional employee part, you can't really speak on that, but I still feel like you'd have some insights. But
I'll let you guys go first.
yeah, to me, for an example, when I was a worker, I just didn't really question much. And that's kind of what they want to condition you to become, is just not someone who will question big, because that's a little too deep for people in the beginning, and then
Yeah.
sometimes it could come off as like cringe or corny or whatever.
or
But
like a know-it-all or
yeah, or just someone that just challenges, or a conspiracy theorist in a sense, if you were to put in that context, right? But even then, for me, I'm the type of person where if I learn one thing that I had no idea existed and I could start today, I'm going, right? I'm going full in, and then I start asking even more questions and more questions. And those questions lead to more answers, and more answers lead to more opportunities. And so personally for me, when I was working, I just had my head down. And then as an entrepreneur, I have more of my head up. And I'm just looking at what's out there in the fields for me to pick off. So
I like that. I was just gonna say, going back to Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, that was actually the first book that I ever read that had completely shifted my mindset. It wasn't until then that I was like, wait, there's other ways than what I'm doing, was when I read that book. But one thing he talked about a lot was like minding your own business. Like I think he said he was working construction before, like early on in his career. or something like that. And while he was doing that, he was thinking of ideas of what he could apply, and then he'd go home and start building his business that way. And I've done that a lot with my job as a dispatcher. There's a lot of downtime, especially working graves and stuff. So I've really adapted that and just have been minding my own business and just like working. So like during my downtime at work, like on my laptop, building new things for everything else. And that's kind of how I've been able to transition from that state, because I mean, I am very lucky to have that downtime, because a lot of people don't have that ability to do that. But I've taken advantage of every second that I have to build something of my own and create something bigger than where I was at.
Yeah, for sure. You know, one thing that I think I said this before, and this is just something that just popped into my head. There's a quote that says, every future risk looks like something negative, but every past risk looked like an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, sometimes when you go back, you know, years down the line, you look back and you're like, man, I should have done that.
I get told that all the time. I don't know about you guys. Okay, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no. Which is a good thing. But yeah, that's kind of like the thing. Every past risk will always look like an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So might as well, when you see the risk now, to jump forward, to lean forward, than it is to stand back and then look back and then say, oh man, that was such an opportunity for me to take.
No, I get told that so much, and it's like my least favorite thing to hear, because like, yeah, it's a compliment, but it's also like, why didn't you do it? Like, they're like, I wish I would have done this when I was your age. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, why didn't you? You had the same opportunities as me.
Yes.
Like, and they're like, I was just being like a dumb 20-year-old. I'm like, okay, I get it, but like why didn't you? Or even now, like, why aren't you now? Like, you're just putting these blocks on where you're at right now that
Sure.
you can't achieve this anymore. But like, you still can. You still have time.
Absolutely. It's never too late.
Yeah, never.
Yeah. Man, the only thing I think I could attribute to any, like, working a normal 9 to 5 or...
Yeah.
Because you've never had a normal job, right?
No, I never have. Like, I started out by doing marketing for my dad for our company, and like, it was for actually our first course called Tax Tutor, and that was my first
And that was
job.
when you were 15? Or
That was when I was 15.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Keep
Yeah,
going.
you're good. Yeah, so I mean, started when I was 15, and I've been in entrepreneurship ever since. But the thing that I would say that's way different between the two is that I've noticed from talking to friends is, and this is like my favorite thing about entrepreneurship, you're developing your role. Like, I get to pick and choose what I absolutely love, and I get to design what it looks like. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to follow the same SOP that every single 100th employee followed before me. Like, it's
Yeah.
been hundreds of employees that have done this the exact same way, and you're just getting put right into the like loop. And if you try to come up with anything yourself, any like adjustment or anything, immediately like, nope, that's wrong. You're gonna get fired,
Yeah.
Yeah.
even if it's an improvement.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And the thing is that I would want to tie that to, and I'm not trying to bash on this, but that's just kind of how school conditions you to be.
yes.
No, you can bash on school. The
So I'm just saying.
educational system sucks.
I mean, like, to each their own, right? I'm not
Yeah.
trying to say, like, you know, never go to school. There's some things that people want to do with their lives that require that.
That is true. Okay.
So, but, you know, that's kind of, for me, when he was mentioning that, kind of what popped up into my mind. I was like, we've been conditioned at such a young age to be told what is right and what is wrong, and what we can
Yeah.
do, what we can't do. So,
Well, I mean, I can't name the amount of times I have done a math test or something and I came up with an answer a different way and still even showed my work in a different way to prove I wasn't cheating, and it still got docked points and marked as wrong, even though it was the same flipping answer.
yeah.
It's like, dude, like, okay, like, you're just telling me that there's like your way or the highway, and
Absolutely.
that's wrong. Like,
Yeah.
that's not how the world works.
Yeah.
There's a million different ways. Like, literally, there are millions, if not billions, of ways to become a millionaire. And, like, it just shows that school is just so focused. So, like,
So
tunnel
linear.
vision.
Putting us into the system so that we can become these people that are lower middle class working for the higher ups. Like,
Right.
that's basically what it is. Like, and we're all conditioned to think that that's normal, and it's crazy to me. Like, and I mean, I was too. Like, I thought I was like so. I mean, I was successful. I always say this because like I'm like I thought I was so successful, and I mean I was because at that time that's what I wanted and that's what I did, and I feel like at that time I was successful for that. But now my values have changed and everything has completely changed. But it's just like I was so traditionally, like in the traditional world, I was so far ahead of the timeline, and I was so like yeah, whatever, but I was still just setting myself up to work the rest of my life and make money from other people. Like,
Right, exactly. Well, have you guys seen the career ladder on like the career ladder episode?
That rings a bell.
I don't know. I don't think
It's like a guy that brings out this ladder and like he invites people to get up.
Right,
And he like tries
right.
to
He
guess their
gets
career
the
in
career
2 minutes.
Right.
so
So
climb up the corporate ladder and then they
yeah. Like that's what it's kind of like resembling. And he's just like asking people about their careers, and like he's been getting bigger people on there, like Gordon Ramsay was on there recently, and like a lot of these other people. But he just did a like study or a survey or something, and he was like figuring out like the billionaires, between billionaires and their degrees, and what kind of degrees those billionaires held. And the number one, like I think it was around 30 to 40% ish, had
no degree. Yeah.
Nothing.
Wow.
And they were billionaires. Like that just gives you
An idea.
perspective.
So many of the most successful people like were high school dropouts. And
Dropped out of college.
yeah, college dropouts, didn't go to college. Like
Yeah.
it's actually crazy.
Yeah, and the thing is that they just were seeking the opportunity, right?
Mhm.
They had some form of knowledge to say, okay, so what's beyond this that with the information that I just received now, like
Yeah.
there should be more than this.
They're hungry and coachable. And
Yes.
I say that a lot. I feel like it's just they're going to turn into buzzwords, but it's so real. Like you have to want it, and you have to be willing to take feedback and critique yourself and get better and better at the game.
Right. And look, we're teachers. We're all teachers to a certain audience, but at the same time, we're still students, and we're hungry and coachable as well.
Mhm.
And we're always looking for
Yes.
answers to more advanced problems at this stage of our life, right?
Yeah,
Learning
exactly.
never stops.
Yes.
Doesn't stop.
Never.
And I mean, this is kind of like going like back, like kind of recapping. Like if you don't ever, like let's say you do get out of your 9 to 5, that's great, that's awesome, that's an awesome achievement. But then you're just going to this business model where you're like the bottleneck or whatever,
Yeah.
or like just going through the motions, kind of like what were we talking about earlier. I was gonna say this and then I forgot. Like you're still on the hamster wheel, you just have a better view. Like it's still a hamster wheel, just with a better
Yeah.
view.
Yeah.
So-
exactly.
So yeah, AI told me that when I was creating a reel, it was like part of a script, and I was like, I'm taking that.
Awesome. I love that. That's
So-
cool.
Yeah, I don't have any other bullet points. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to add.
No, I mean that was really good. I guess I liked all the inputs that you guys put out there.
Yeah, that was solid.
Okay, perfect. Well, I guess we'll close it out. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Stay tuned for April 17th. We'll be announcing what we're doing in the next episode. So.